Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Tuesday the 14th of June. The other day, on Sunday afternoon, I was getting ready for a sermon, or for a funeral, and I was printing my bulletins, and I have a very slow printer. So I was watching a few things, Christy Amanpour on public television, and somewhere, I wasn't paying that much attention, but somewhere the phrase cultural credibility came up, and it really kind of caught my attention. So I wrote it down 2 days ago, and now I can't remember what was it about that phrase, cultural credibility, that struck a nerve for me. But I thought, you know what? I like that phrase, cultural credibility. And I've been thinking about it and thinking about what's happening in my own world, thinking about the way I'm thinking about things. And I don't know whether it's my birthday coming up, and every year at my birthday I get kind of a bit more introspective, start thinking about the world around me, paying more attention to the news, things like that. And really, really wanting to ask questions about what have I done with my life, and where am I going, and what is happening in the world around me, and does it matter? And this cultural credibility thing really it hasn't struck a nerve. That's not the right phrase, but it struck my fancy, because I have no idea what the speaker was talking about, because it was in the background thing. But cultural credibility, and I think about as a white person growing up in southwestern Ontario, and living for 7 years in eastern Canada, and now living for the last almost 2 years in Western Canada, I'm very, very aware that even within Canada, our cultures are so different. In southwestern Ontario, I lived there. I lived in many different places in that very small, geographical area. And each town we lived in had a very different place. Like, I lived in Niagara Falls for 5 years, and a very different feel from, for instance, Listowel or Hanover, which are tiny little towns, just a couple of hours away from Niagara Falls. But the difference is that both of those little towns have a group of people who, they shop at the same grocery store, and they go to the same place to buy yarn for when they're knitting things. And the library is that cute, well, not so cute, but that older brick building or stone building where kids can go to listen to story time in the summer, and teenagers can go and hang out with their friends and do homework, and everybody knows everybody, and they really do sort of roll up the streets when the sun goes down. Niagara Falls had this amazing, international flair to it. I worked for one summer at Burger King at Clifton Hill. If you've ever been to Niagara Falls, Clifton Hill is the tourist trap, and Burger King was at the top of the hill. And we would stay open an hour later than the bar across the road. So when it would close at 1, we wouldn't close till 2. So all the people who had been imbibing a bit too much could go and have something to eat before they caught a cab and went home. But we had people from all over the world that would filter through our doors. And, lots of people want to say, well, all the Chinese do this, or all of the Vietnamese do this, or all of the Germans do this. And the fact is, no, they each bring with them their individual personalities. I had my first experience with someone who seemed to be from the Middle East was at the end of my shift one day. I'd been there since 7 in the morning. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I took one last order, and this gentleman, he ordered his French fries with no salt. And if you've ever worked in a fast food restaurant, there's no such thing as no salt, because they shake the salt in the fries and it bakes into the metal pan that the fries are in. And even though we didn't add any salt to the fries before they were scooped into the little package, there was salt that came from the bottom when they're scraped up. And he was so angry he cursed me. Like, I don't mean he swore 4-letter words at me. He cursed me in Allah's name. And I didn't have a clue what this was. And at first it was a little terrifying. And then it was just kind of funny, because I don't believe that, I was a 14-year-old Anglican Christian kid who was serving fries at Burger King. And this man was flipping out on me because I had salt on his fries, and he was cursing my soul to hell or something, or however that would go for his particular religion. And later on in life, I thought, it's a good thing that I was so ridiculously unaware of any kind of diversity or cultural awareness, because had I allowed that gentleman, I use that phrase loosely, if I had allowed him to determine how I saw people from the Middle East and the way that he invoked his divine being against me, I can see how that would have turned me off and maybe made me want to hate another group of people. That's not who I am. That's not the way I work. And so he didn't mess up his cultural credibility for me, because I just didn't give him that much credence. I just didn't pay much attention to him. But had I been someone else, or had I been older, or had that been over a more significant thing than salt on French fries, would that have changed the way I then approached people who come from a different background, a different faith tradition than me? Quite possibly. His cultural credibility could have shaken my ability to see his culture with credibility. Does that make any sense? The way we present ourselves, like, I'm very aware that some people do not believe in God, and they think that Jesus Christ is a hoax or just a myth. And even beyond that, they have huge, huge issues with the institution of church that I represent. I wear a collar. I'm an ordained priest in the Anglican Church of Canada, and I understand that. And I understand why people get so frustrated with the institution, because that cultural credibility has been stained. That because people like me, people who were priests in the church, abused or misrepresented, like one end, the worst end, they abused power, and and even if it was only by accident or not really paying attention, they misrepresented what the church initially and at the core is meant to believe in, and they absolutely stained the cultural credibility for lots and lots of people for what is now the Anglican Church of Canada, or the Christian church, or however you want to interpret that. I understand that. I think that the cultural credibility thing, we need to take it again into ourselves. Like yesterday I talked about your story matters. I think that we can paint things, we can paint a whole society with one paintbrush. And all we do is we graffiti the world. If we were to individually take it home, and I know I'm being Pollyanna by thinking that people might actually do this, but it has to start somewhere. If every individual were to take a look at their own cultural credibility and said, okay, who am I and what do I represent? So who am I as Rachael Louise Parker, who is almost 51 years old, and I'm white, and I live in a middle-class neighborhood. I now own my own house with a hefty mortgage and all that comes with it, but I have this kind of affluence. I have a steady job. I have 2 university degrees. I have all of these things that come with being me. This is my culture. This is my identity. Where is the credibility in that? And when people look at me, do they see credibility, or do they see discredited ability? Does that make sense? I have to take responsibility that when people look at me, they don't simply see me. They see me, but they also see what I represent, the communities that I represent, the places I live, the people I hang out with. I reflect upon all of these things because of who I am. The same way that you reflect upon the people that the people you work for, the jobs that you do, the people that you hang out with, the sports that you play, like wherever you are, when people see you, they don't see simply one slice of you, they see all of what you present, and they'll make a judgment. The question becomes, is that judgment credible? Is what we are presenting truly what we mean to present? And again, I may be Pollyanna, but I do believe that most people, in their heart of hearts, if they were to tell their story as if their story really mattered, would acknowledge that they don't want to paint another person with a brush that isn't appropriate. They wouldn't want anyone to do that to them, and they don't really want to do it to someone else. I think that if we all were to take a close look at our own cultural credibility, our own personal credibility, and started working from that, we might actually get to that place where maybe in small groups that become bigger groups, that become communities, that become change-making communities, we could change the world if we all started with looking at ourselves and saying, do I represent all of who I am with integrity, with humility, with genuineness, with authenticity? And if I do, then great. Now I can try to help others do that. But if I don't, and probably for most of us there's that room to work on, if I'm not doing that, then maybe if I started, then people would listen. As a priest, if I get on YouTube and I speak from the heart, and I speak with honesty and integrity and humility, maybe someone will listen and see that I am not trying to hurt them. I'm only trying to share with them something that I believe in, something that I'm passionate about, something that I believe might be able to help them. And if they choose then to listen, then we can continue from there, because I've established my credibility. But I think that we need to bring that cultural credibility into personal credibility, so that whoever we're speaking to will recognize that we aren't trying to change them. We are simply telling our story. And hopefully we're doing it with genuine care, with authenticity, and with truth. Thanks for listening to my ramblings today. If I'm being authentic and I'm being credible, I can tell you, my brain rambles. This is how I work. And sometimes I learn more through the rambling than I would if I simply picked up a textbook. So thank you for being my teacher as you allow me to ramble. I hope that you have a great day, and I hope that you find ways to explore your own credibility and to help others to find theirs as well. God bless you, and I'll see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachael.